everyone, it's Hayes. In today's video we're going to do the commentary / analysis for episode 4 of Miraculous Ladybug season 6, the episode that was made for me, Daddycop. As always, I'm about to spoil the whole thing for you, so please go and make sure you've watched it before you watch the rest of this video. So yes, this video is a bit later than usual. I have been away on a holiday, I am back. I got back yesterday morning, our flight landed at like 10 to 7 in the morning. I needed some sleep. I'm not really that jet lagged, to be honest. I feel like I've got my old routine back because of the time we landed. As soon as we got home, I went for a 2-hour nap. I was okay for most of the day, and then I went to bed last night at like 8 PM and I've had like 9 hours of sleep. So I actually feel okay. Although I did make a mini analysis. A lot of you were asking me when I was going to make the full analysis, which is very sweet of you that you still wanted to watch 2 weeks later even though you already had the mini one. So we're going to do this one today, which hopefully will go up on Thursday depending on spoilers, and I'm looking to hopefully get the Where Papa's one up for Monday. Hopefully, if it all goes to plan. Might not. Yeah, I'm going to talk about my holiday a bit more at the end of the video because I know some of you will be interested but most of you won't care, which is fine. But the top question I know will be, Hayes, you went all the way to the Caribbean and you didn't get a tan. Yeah, I don't really tan. I'm a bit too pale to get a tan. I just burn. So I just slathered myself in some lotion and very luckily, even though I was there for a full 2 weeks, I didn't get burnt even a little bit. So it was great. It was a great time though. It was wonderful. But speaking of the mini analysis, I am aware I haven't replied to all the comments under both of them. I will get to them. I always get to them. It's just taken me a bit more time because I was pretty busy on the cruise basically. Anyway, we're just gonna go straight into it as always. Quick thoughts. I really like this episode. There's definitely going to be some crossover of what I said in the mini analysis and this one, although what the crossover will be exactly I don't remember, because even though it was only 2 weeks ago, that literally feels like it was a lifetime ago to me. It literally feels like about 2 months ago when I filmed that video. So I don't remember all of what I said. But anyway, quick thoughts, 9 out of 10. I still really like this episode. I know I liked it then. And I think the reason I like it so much is that it has some follow-on from season 5, which is what I've been waiting for. Prior to Daddycop and Where Papa's, the illustrator and Sublimation don't really have any follow-on. The only real follow-on is that Gabriel is no longer Hotline and Marinette and Adrian are dating. And that's it. There's no other kind of follow-on. So I was talking to one of my friends, Edward, about it. He's my head moderator on Discord, and he was like, I can't believe you gave those scores you did to 2 and 3. And I'm like, I don't think they were bad episodes. I was just kind of waiting for some larger plot to start. And I think my sweet spot in terms of the structure of the season is something like season 4, where we have a mixture of episodes that continue the plot and some that have no effect on it. For example, I know no one likes the episode, but Simple Man was a season 4 episode that you could skip. It really didn't matter, it was just meant to be fun. But then episodes like Truth, Lies, Gang of Secrets had plot in them. There's more than just those ones, obviously, just naming a few of them. And because we got the Illustrator and Sublimation first, that were just filler, I was like, oh, this is boring. So perhaps I judged them too harshly because we've got these ones now. So they're obviously meant to be filler ones. I was just a bit nervous we were going completely back to season 1 factory settings where it's just all filler and it's fine and there's no real plot to it. So I really, really enjoyed both Daddycop and Where Papa's for the plot continuation of season 5 with what happened with Sabrina. But first of all, we gotta say, Chloe on the phone call with Sabrina, well, not with Sabrina, she's like doing her advert or whatever. Is that for Chloe's involvement? Is that it? Is that what line she's gonna get? It's like, yeah, the voice actress is back in the studio just for that one scene. I don't know. Maybe, but oh my god, Sabrina and her dad, they are so cute together. They're so sweet. You don't often get to see them interact. I couldn't tell you the last time they had a scene together. I'm not actually sure, but was adorable. Loved it so much. And then Marinette starts going off about the thing with Jupiter, and I didn't really understand it, but whatever, the constellation in line with the planets or something, whatever. I loved it. So that's why I liked the episode, because I had season 1 vibes of Marinette with a crazy plan, but it was also taken seriously in some respects with Sabrina, and then what happens with Zoe at the end, we'll get to that eventually. I had some follow through, so it was a good mix of the two, whereas 2 and 3, episodes 2 and 3, they were just straight season 1 and I'm like, this isn't fun. So I like both of them, although I have to say, so as we see in the Illustrator, Sabrina is wearing her new Miss Hound outfit, which she gets in this episode. It's her first time with this outfit. So that means that this episode takes place before that one, which is fine. However, the plot in this episode is Marinette wants to celebrate 100 kisses with Adrien. But in the Illustrator, the plot is she doesn't know how to act around him and can barely hold his hand. So it's just a bit, you know, the plots of both of them are fine. I don't buy the Illustrator one as much, but it's fine. But it makes it even worse when, you know, when this one happens before. So she has no problem kissing him, but just going out on a date with him? Oh god, no. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's totally fine to be nervous going on a date with someone. I am terrified when I go on dates. Don't like it very much, don't enjoy them. That's why I don't go on very often, because of how anxious they get me. But it just, in terms of their relationship, doesn't make sense because you have no problem kissing him 100 times. But going on a date with him and acting normally around him, god no. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense together, is what I'm saying. It's perfectly fine to kiss someone that many times. It's perfectly fine to feel anxious around them at first. But just with the timeline of their relationship, it doesn't make sense. Which is the issue I'm having with it. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the Illustrator. But then, oh, there was one thing Marinette said that did kind of annoy me. So she's like, oh, where I failed with Chloe, I succeeded with Sabrina. I'm like, okay, yeah, I partially agree with that. However, at the same time, so you could argue that Sabrina's redemptive moment, because they don't really have redemption arcs in this show, they just have a redemptive moment where they either change immediately or it never happens, is that it happened in season 5 in Confirmation? I can't remember, towards the end of season 5, whatever the episode was. They're all still mixed up in my head. I hated all those titles in season 5. Couldn't tell them all apart. Anyway, so that was her moment or whatever. However, Marinette first gave the Miraculous to Sabrina all the way back in Penultime, an entire season earlier. So it's like, why would you give it to Sabrina? Because Sabrina wasn't redeemed by then. Like, Sabrina was still being mean in season 5 with Chloe. So just annoyed me a little bit because it was just a bit, oh no. Anyway, all the girls were at the table in the cafeteria. Kagami, I'm great to see her there, even though I don't like her very much. Did she switch schools? Is Tomoe okay with that? I would assume Tomoe is still being somewhat controlling, like Gabriel was with Adrien. I don't know, haven't seen 601 yet, when we get to see it. Hopefully soon. Although I am kind of annoyed with all of them, apart from Zoe, because I do feel that all the girls did kind of fail Sabrina. Like, in one respect, it's like, fine, you don't want to be friends with her. You can't force someone to be friends with someone. That's fine. But also at the same time, it's just a bit like, you all knew she would have been on her own. You were all aware Chloe was her only friend. You've all been going to the school for, well, Alia for only a year, Zoe a few months, Kagami about a week maybe, everyone else quite a bit longer. You all were aware that Sabrina was entirely, like, that was her only friend and that now she would have none. So why haven't you done something prior to that? But also at the same time, in Recreation, I'm pretty sure she was at the pool scene. So do you have friends or don't you? They keep changing their minds about if Sabrina has friends or not. So I'm just a bit disappointed in that they didn't recognise that she didn't have any friends and realised she might be on her own, and they also have eyes. I'm not sure how long it's been since the start of the school year yet. But like, you would have seen her sat on her own at lunchtimes and in classes. So, a bit disappointed in them because they're all lovely, so I don't know. But anyway, Adrien was absolutely lovely in this episode. Like, completely respected Marinette's boundaries when she was like, no, we're not doing kissing today, only cheek kisses. Great. And honestly, he knew her better than she did, because he was just like, at one point a bit later on, was like, if you're splitting your time between me and the girls, you're not really going to be spending proper time with either group. So I was like, he knows his stuff. He is great, he is amazing, always love Adrien. And then we move on to all the misunderstanding in this episode, which was done so much better than in Sublimation. In Sublimation, the only misunderstanding I was like really behind was like the last one, when Sublime was like giving herself kind of like a pep talk in the mirror and Marinette thought it was aimed at her. Honestly, I thought that misunderstanding was great. The rest of them, I just didn't think they were good, because Marinette jumped to conclusions with absolutely no evidence for them. For example, in Rocketeer was a great example of this being done well. Nino in that episode is completely incorrect. However, he does have evidence to back up what he thinks. He doesn't just go in there as like, Ali's in love with Cat Noir, and everyone's like, oh, how do you know? He's like, I just know. He doesn't say that. He actually does have evidence to suggest that Ali is in love with Cat Noir. Is he correct? No, he's not. But to him, he has plausible evidence that Ali is in love with Cat Noir. In Sublimation, apart from that last section in the bathroom, Marinette has no evidence to suggest that Sublime is 1, in love with Adrien, or 2, Sublime hates her. She just assumes. She has no evidence for it. So in this one, I really liked how the Misunderstandings were done, with Zoe talking to the girls first, going to talk to Marinette, and then Marinette assuming what Zoe was talking about, and then Zoe assuming. It was really well done. It was great. And then we have Sabrina going to the sleepover. She was so excited. I wanted to give her a hug. Because when I watched it the first time, I knew she was going to get rejected. That was going to be the point of the Akuma. I was like, I don't want to see her sad. I really like Sabrina. And then Roger comes to pick her up. He puts the sirens on. Amazing dad. He's great. And then, so all the girls get concerned when Zoe realises, oh, if it wasn't Adrien at the door, it was Sabrina. Now Zoe's concern, I'm not mad at her. I thought Zoe's concern was well placed. However, all the other girls, I was like, that's a bit two-faced of you. Because when they're back in the science lab, Alia was like, yeah, no, really, and Julika was like, oh, there's no really beds and stuff like that. Fair enough, Milen, she just came straight out and she was like, no. And then Kagami was the same, just like she was also a bully. Like, yeah, okay, fair enough. But then I did think it was a bit two-faced of all of them, apart from Zoe, to go and chase after Sabrina. It was like, you didn't like her earlier in the day, but now you're concerned about her? Okay, I thought better of these girls than that, personally. And then Lyla clearly has it out for Sabrina, because I don't think she would have been that upset to akumatize. She's like, oh well, she ruined my identity at the last school. Let's get her out of the way with. Obviously didn't work, Sabrina was great. Then we move on to Roger. The moment I was waiting for, Lyla being like, what should I call you? And then Roger all serious, Daddycop. Oh my god, amazing. Lyla's probably like, well, you can call yourself that, but I won't call you. Oh, maybe now I can finally tell my co-workers what I do on the weekends and in the evenings, because when they find all the videos of me saying daddy, I can be like, oh no, it's a thing in the show, because it now is a thing in the show. I don't have to keep it a secret anymore. No one knows. My old manager, who has now left, knows I did YouTube videos, but she never asked what it was on. She was like, oh, that's cool, it's just a thing she does in her free time. Which is true. It's not a lie, it's a thing I do in my free time. No one knows a what. Anyway, I'm finding it really interesting so far, just as like in this episode as well, but overall in general. How Lyla's Akumas don't really seem to be causing that much damage. Even in the Illustrator, when she had like hand-drawn projectiles, none of the Akumas are really causing all that much damage, which I'm finding it kind of interesting. How a lot of her Akumas are kind of helping people. Like, you could argue in the Illustrator she was helping Maya to create, in Sublimation she was helping people to be better, in this one it was helping people find love, and I guess in Werepapas it was a bit different since they were fighting, but again there was no real harm done to any of them, if that makes sense. So I'm not quite sure what it means yet, but at the minute I kind of feel like it shows that Lyla is presenting herself, not that she is, but is presenting herself as like a nice villain, kind of like, because I feel like there's definitely going to be, since Lyla knows what's going on and stuff, that she's going to try and expose Ladybug for knowing the true identity of Hawkmoth and not telling people and posing him as a hero, which, by the way, where has that statue gone in the park? Am I just blind? But I don't think it's there anymore. I don't know. But you know, I feel like that could be an interesting thing. So Lyla's trying to be as non-violent as possible with her Akumas and cause the least amount of damage as she possibly can, so she's not seen as like this evil, violent threat, just more of as like an annoyance. At the minute she's not really evil or doing anything horrible, she's just annoying, which isn't really a crime. It should be, but it's not. I don't like people who are annoying. Then we get the first shot of Mr. Ramier. Oh my god, love Mr. Ramier, one of my faves. Love him so much. And then I love the scene with Ladybug and Sabrina on the rooftop. And first of all, before we talk about the outfit, a lot of people were saying, oh, this is proof to show that Chloe never truly changed and she was always horrible, since she never, like, when she was like trying to change her ways, she didn't change her Queen Bee outfit, it was always the same. And whilst I definitely think you could argue that, I also do feel you need to take into consideration the budget constraints they seem to have back then and don't have anymore. So season 2, season 3, it didn't seem the show had as much money behind it as it does now. So whilst I think you could argue that, I think you also need to take the money and the modelling and how much they cost into the equation. I saw a lot of people saying that online. I don't necessarily think they're wrong. I think that's an interesting observation, but I also think it was just a money thing. Like, Adrian didn't get pyjamas until the end of season 4. You know what I mean? Which I feel like is infinitely more important than giving a character the creator didn't even like a new outfit. And Chloe did have quite a few outfits because she had a lot of Akumas. So I think it was possibly also them just trying to save money. Maybe. However, so Sabrina's new outfit, I like that she changed it to show how she's changing, becoming more confident in herself, more sure of herself, that she's becoming a new person in order to fully break away from Chloe. I loved it, and I'm also incredibly grateful for the new outfit because the last one, it wasn't good. I hated it since the moment I saw it. This outfit has been taken from one of the worst outfits in the entire show to now one of the best. It's so good. I'm gonna do, and actually I'm gonna leave a pinned comment, I think what I'm gonna do, instead of doing a separate video on like Sabrina's civilian, Sabrina's hero outfit, Kagami's civilian, Kagami's hero outfit, I think I'll just combine them. So one Sabrina style analysis, that's civilian and hero, Kagami all together, Nina all together, everyone all together basically in their own video just for that character. But, and I would put a poll up, but on the community tab you can only have 5 options for a poll, and there are obviously a lot more characters than that. So I think I'm just going to leave a pinned comment under this video and ask you who you'd like to see first, because now I'm back off holiday, we've got more episodes under our belt, we've got loads of screenshots of what the characters look like. Well, for some of them we have. Like Zoe, I think, has only really been in this episode, I think. So there's not so much for her, for example. Adrian and Marinette we've got loads of, but other characters no. We haven't even really seen Felix yet, apart from in the opening sequence and the ending sequence. So we can't really look at him yet. But I'll just leave a pinned comment and ask you to tell me which people you'd like. She says, hoping she remembers to put that pinned comment because I will be at work when this video goes up. Anyway. So Lyla's new power is super interesting though. I love that she can, I was gonna say de-transform them, but now I've said that, could she maybe do that? So obviously in this episode she took the Astro Cat power away from Cat Noir, but I was assuming he still had his Cataclysm. But in Sublimation she took away the Cataclysm power from him and he kind of became like grey looking. So if she presumably hit them again when she'd taken away their power, would it then de-transform them? That's just an idea. I don't actually know if that's a thing, but that could be super, super interesting if that's part of her power. Would it maybe be a bit too OP? Possibly. Possibly. But then again, Ladybug has the Rooster power, which she hasn't used this season. Well, Mark is on the team for Ladybug to use the Rooster power, so you could argue the same thing there. I don't know, but I think that would be an interesting idea if she does have the ability to do that, and I'm not sure what Ladybug would do to combat that because I'm not really sure there's much she could do, honestly. But it was great, and I thought the whole plan to solve it in the episode using Sabrina and then also using Max was just great. Really good teamwork. Then we get back to the sleepover. All the pyjamas were great. I love clothes, as I think many of you know, but my favourite category of clothes that you may not know is actually pyjamas. I love pyjamas. Every year for Christmas I always ask for a really nice pair of pyjamas. I love pyjamas. What I used to do, I think I told you all this already in a different video, but what I used to do when I was in college, because I hated college, is I'd go out and I'd buy pyjama tops that I could pass off as regular clothing, because pyjama tops just feel so much nicer than like regular t-shirts. And I don't do that anymore, and I don't know why, because 16, 17-year-old Hayes was really onto something when she had really bad depression, so I need to start doing that again. But all the pyjamas, excellent. Even better, some of them, dare I say, better than the civilian outfits, like Kagami's pyjamas. That's better than her current civilian outfit, oh my god. Amazing. So speaking of outfits though, Sabrina's new outfit, it's definitely better than her old civilian outfit. Still not my favourite, but it's definitely better. Her hair's super cute though, I love the hair. And Adrian was so sweet in that scene. Like I said, he knows more than what Marinette needs, than what Marinette knows herself. He's just great. And then of course we have to talk about the ending with Ray, who I assume is from Zoe's school in New York. Is he still wearing their uniform from New York, or is it, do they have school uniform? I don't know, I would assume it was a private school in New York. Sounded like it was a private school from what we heard from Zoe. I was always under the impression people in America didn't wear school uniforms, or is it more of the case most people don't wear uniforms at school and there's like some schools that are an exception to that, and that would be like private schools that perhaps would. I don't know. I'm not American. Please let me know. But he looked like he was wearing a uniform, and I'm first of all, why are you here in Paris? Why have you come all this way? The flight's not cheap, you look rich, you sound rich, so perhaps you could just get a flight over, you know. But why are you here? Why don't you just send her a threat over WhatsApp, mate? Don't need to do this. Add her on Discord, start sending her sketchy clips with a weird username. You know what I mean? You need to fly all the way to Paris. Don't get me wrong, it's interesting for the story, but just logically. But anyway, I can't wait to find out what this means. I've got so many ideas for like theory videos bouncing off of this and other things. But overall, I thought it was a great ending. I thought it was a great episode. I'm just kind of a bit annoyed at some of the girls, and I'm just like, first of all, why didn't you realise she didn't have friends? Second of all, you don't have to be friends with her, but then it's a bit two-faced for you to run after being concerned when you didn't want us to come to sleepover in the first place. So a little bit annoyed at them because they're all relatively nice people, you know what I mean? Like, we all have moments, you know, if you're a nice person, you all have moments where you're a bit like, I can't be bothered with this today, and end up being a bit rude. But like, they're all largely nice people, so I'm a bit like, yeah. Anyway, overall, 9 out of 10. Sabrina, quite clearly, was the MVP, but special mention for Daddycop himself because he was great, and I hope all the other Miraculous who make analysis videos also said that and didn't just refuse to, because no. Name of the episode, you gotta say it. So as always, besties, I'd love to know what you thought of this episode. If you're gonna leave me a long comment, that's great, I can't wait to read it, but please break it up into some paragraphs just so it's a little bit easier for me to read because I have terrible eyesight, and like I said before, I will get round to reading the rest of the comments on the mini analysis and replying to them. It was just a bit overwhelming. I got off like an 8-hour flight, finally connected to the ship's Wi-Fi when we got there because it was like an hour after we got from the airport to the ship, but then we had to unpack, and then I couldn't get the Wi-Fi to work, and we had to go queue up at the reception and stuff. It just, everything took a while, and I'm very grateful, don't get me wrong, but I just had a lot of comments under both videos since they'd both gone up whilst I was on the flight, and it was just a lot. So I haven't got around to it yet, but I absolutely will, I always do. So that's all the Miraculous things I have to say. I'm going to tell you about my holiday now because I know some of you will care, but if you don't, goodbye. I will see you in the next one. So my holiday, it was great. The flight was really good. This is the first long haul flight I've ever done. The longest I've flown before I think was my flight to Krakow in September, which was like 3 hours. This was 8 hours. However, I don't know if it's an accurate depiction of long haul flights, and I mean specifically the food, because the food was all arranged by P&O, who was the cruise line I went with. So I don't, like, I always hear, like, I wasn't looking forward to the airplane food, but it was actually pretty good. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't the best thing I've ever eaten in my life, but it was better than I was expecting, so I was like, this isn't bad. So I don't know if like regular airline food is the same. I don't know. So we flew with Norse Airlines. Never heard of them before in my life. It was a really nice flight though. We got to, because Antigua is where we landed, is obviously behind the UK in terms of the time zone. So I think we landed around like 4-5 p.m. We got to the ship around 6. Didn't do that much night apart from went up to the buffet to get stuff to eat, and then the day after we were actually in Antigua again. We did this really cool excursion where we went to this place called Devil's Bridge, where it's like this outcropping in these rocks by the coast on the Atlantic. It was really nice and pretty. I'll put some pictures up if I remember. The next day was a sea day, and honestly for most of the sea days I spent it in the ship's library, which was always empty, which is why I was always there. Then we went to Grenada, and we went to see how chocolate was made, just what I love chocolate, so I really liked it. Then we went to St. Lucia to see, they actually have 2 volcanoes called the Pitons. We went to the one that was nearest to us, they're pretty close together. Went to the one that's nearest to us, and it's still an active volcano, so they have like mud pools and stuff that like people put on their faces and on their bodies, and that's really good for your skin. We didn't get to go and do that, we just went to, I didn't want to do that to be fair, just went to like literally see the volcano. It was amazing, I love volcanoes. I have a qualification in geology by mistake made by my high school, but I still did it. I'm not very good at geology, but I find it really interesting. And I got to see a hummingbird for the first time. I've never seen one in real life before. We don't really have hummingbirds here. So that was incredible. The next day was a sea day, and then we had 2 days in Barbados. The first day we went snorkeling and I got to see turtles. I'm not very good at snorkeling either, but it was really fun. And since I'm not the strongest swimmer, I actually spent most of the trip on that day on the catamaran, or just the boat, with the ship's crew, and they're all absolutely lovely. The second day we like went on our own excursion, I guess, to the centre of Barbados in Bridgetown, or rather the centre of Bridgetown, which is like the capital of Barbados. It's a lovely place, and if you're about my age and from the UK, they still have Woolworths, which you may have in your country, but all of them closed down in the UK. And I have missed it ever since, so it was lovely to get to go into Woolworths again. It was my first time going to a Woolworths in probably decades by this point. When did it close down? I can't even remember. But anyway, that was great. It was a lovely place. Everyone we met was lovely. And then when we got back to the port, they had some shops there. And we stopped to get a flying fish cutter, which is basically, it's a fish sandwich. The flying fish is like, well, apparently there's a big argument between Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago about who the fish belongs to. I don't know enough. But it was really, really good. The next day after was a sea day, and then we had 3 days in a row. So the first day was St. Kitts and Nevis. So Nevis we actually docked in St. Kitts. Nevis we didn't go to. You could go, we decided not to, but it was where Alexander Hamilton was born. Before he obviously came to the US, or went to the US since he's dead. So we stayed on St. Kitts. We had a really lovely time. All the islands were lovely. They were all lovely people. It was just, we had a lovely time. It was great. The next day we went to Martinique, and on the excursion we had there, so Martinique is a French department. I don't really understand what that means. I think it's just they're no longer a colony and do have some autonomy, but the capital of their island is still Paris in France. They don't have, like, they have their main town, their main city, but they don't actually have a capital. And our tour guide, he was lovely. All the tour guides were really lovely. So I was the youngest on pretty much all the excursions we went on. There weren't that many children on this cruise, and he started talking about Napoleon, and he looked at me, he was like, "You're too young to remember," and then carried on talking about Napoleon, and I was like, I hate to break it to you, but everyone here is also too young to remember Napoleon, because none of them were alive at the time. And then he started talking about his first wife, who used to be a sex worker in a prison. Okay. But then before he said it, he just looked at me, then he looked at my mum and just said to my mum, "She's over 18, right?" And I was like, I don't look that young. I know I don't look 28, but I don't look younger than 18. I was like, absolutely not. And when he found out later on in the tour my actual age, this man was so shocked. He just kept staring at me. He was like, no. He genuinely thought I was like 16 years old. No. Then we went to Tortola, we went to a beach there, it was really nice. I'm not a big beach person, it was actually the only beach we went to. And then we had a morning left in Antigua before we got the flight. And it was great, I had a great time. All the photos are on my Instagram. It was wonderful. If I was to go back to any of them, I'd probably like to go back to Martinique. Martinique was fun. Oh, we also went to Saint Martin. Saint Martin? They call it different things. And they also speak, like, one half of the island is Dutch and one half of the island is French. So that was really fun. But yeah, it was great. Everyone was really lovely. I got called beautiful everywhere we went. It was wonderful. Don't get that same treatment here in the UK, so I'm gonna have to get used to that. But anyway, that was my holiday. Thank you for staying to listen about my holiday if you stayed. Oh, and now the bin men are here. I'd love to know what you thought of this episode, besties, as well as my holiday. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!